if they can nourish the minds with creative thoughts according to the current trends of the modern world. He added that the economic crisis can only be solved by adopting short and long-term plans. He said that the government is now adopting short-term measures. Negotiations with the International Monetary Fund have been successful, reached its final stage. He said that the discussions on debt restructuring will be held with the main countries that provided loan assistance to the country. The United Nations, in collaboration with leading international organizations, is launching a program to ensure food security. The process of providing daily needs, including gas, electricity and fuel, without a shortage has been initiated, the President pointed out. And he said that the country is on correct course in the short term for recovery. He emphasized the importance of preparing a national economic policy to implement continuously for at least over a period of 25 years. He reiterated that interim budget forms the foundation of the national economic policy, which is envisaged to be established through the 2023 budget. He said that the fiscal stabilization program envisages the government revenue increasing to around 15% of GDP by 2025 from the 8.2% of GDP as at end of 2022. He added that the government is targeting a primary surplus more than 2% of the GDP in 2025 and expects to improve upon level thereafter. He also said that the government aims to reduce public sector debt from around 110% of GDP as at end of 2021 to no more than 100% of GDP in the medium term. It is expected that inflation will be brought back under control, a mid-single-digit level in the medium term, he added. In line with the President, Wickremesinghe said that interest rates are also expected to reach a moderate level gradually. Once macroeconomic confidence is re-established and foreign exchange reserves are replenished through foreign financing, the adverse pressure on exchange rates is also expected to abate, he added. He said that they will prepare the foundation of the journey of creating a revitalized economy through these proposals. He reiterated that the government aims to create a surplus in the primary budget by the year 2025. He said that these efforts to stabilize economic growth rate and aspires to establish a solid economic foundation by the year 2026. As at the end of 2021, public debt is around 110% of the gross domestic product. He said that the target of the government is to bring down to less than 100% in the medium term. He said that if they could build the nation and popularize based on the national economic policy, the country would be able to become a fully developed nation by the year 2048, when the country celebrates the 100th anniversary of independence. President Wickremesinghe emphasized that the country can no longer be a national dependent on loan assistance, nor as a tool of interference by other countries with strong economies. He said that the government must strive to bring business entities of the country to competitive level in the global market. He also said that they must prepare a pursuit to capture a share of the global market on agriculture exports. He pointed out that the importance in creating a disciplined, knowledgeable society that provides right opportunities to maintain social justice. All this can be achieved, he said, that only if they could work together in unity with common consent. He reiterated that invitation to all parties represented in the parliament to join an all-party government, since the unprecedented situation is the responsibility of all the public representatives, and therefore to prioritize the necessities of the country and the nation. He emphasized that he is not the person who decides the actions or policies of an all-party government. It is not an administration of a single person or a single party, and will be established according to the consent of all stakeholders of the government. Therefore, he pointed out that the stakeholder parties will have the right and mandate to change policies on practices which they reject or disagree within an all-party government. Therefore, he requested the parliament and all the citizens of the country to put aside personal political goals and unite in the context of the national cause of rebuilding the country and nation. He said that if the nation misses the opportunities, the country would be marginalized globally. Accordingly, he invited all stakeholders to come together to create a knowledgeable society with a strong economy that can run forward together with the world.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the fiscal stabilization program envisages government revenue increasing to around 15% of the GDP by 2025, from the 8.2% of GDP as at the end of 2021. It is the expectation of the government to bring back the inflation under control to a mid-single-digit level in the medium term. President Wickremesinghe, in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, made these remarks while presenting the interim budget in the Parliament. In his address to the Parliament, President Wickremesinghe said that the VAT rate will be increased to 15% from the current rate of 12% with effect from the 1st of September. Most revenue proposals introduced in May 2022 will be effective from the 1st of October. The President said that the implementation of these proposals will help increase the revenue. It will enable to gradually reduce the quantum of monetary financing for government expenditure, he added. The President also proposed to take actions to attract foreign investors and technology holders to establish joint ventures with Sri Lankan partners for industrial investments with advanced technologies to ensure better utilization of the mineral resources and to increase value addition without jeopardizing the interests of the national economy and the sustainable use of resources. The President proposed to introduce required laws to establish a system similar to the Inspector General in the USA, tasked with making sure the government expenditure system is working well and in the way it is intended. The aim of this proposed initiative is to protect the integrity of the government by detecting and preventing fraud, waste and abuse in government institutions. The retirement age of public sector and semi-governmental employees has been limited to 60 years. Those who have been employed beyond 60 years of age at present in the government and semi-government sectors will be retired as of December 31st this year. In another proposal, only electric-powered vehicles will be purchased for the use of the public sector in the future, and the private sector will also be encouraged to use electric vehicles. Another critical area of reform is the management of state-owned enterprises. The major fiscal risks arise from a few key state-owned enterprises, particularly in transportation, such as Sri Lankan Airlines, and in the energy sector, such as the Ceylon Electricity Board and the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. As these losses cannot be met endlessly from the General Treasury, attention should be paid to find an alternative mechanism to make them effective. Accordingly, it has been proposed to establish the State-Owned Enterprise Restructuring Unit to facilitate restructuring of government-owned business entities. A provision of 200 million rupees has been allocated to implement this proposal. The President proposed to establish a parliamentary committee on ways and means to closely deal with issues and make proposals in raising government revenue. As per the interim budget proposals, an independent National Debt Management Agency will be set up under the General Treasury in lieu of current arrangements in this respect. President Wickremesinghe proposed to establish a national agency for the purpose of identifying and facilitating investments to be undertaken in partnership with the public and private sector. An allocation of 250 million rupees will be allocated for the implementation of this proposal. In order to meet recapitalization requirements borne out due to the increase in interest rates, rising NPLs, loan settlement issues faced by businesses due to the economic crisis and liquidity issues faced by the state banks, it is proposed to allow 20% of shareholding of the Bank of Ceylon and People's Bank by their depositors and staff. It is noted that the government's ability to provide additional capital at this stage to the state banks is very limited given the lack of fiscal space. The government has spent an additional amount of about 31 billion rupees approximately from May to July to provide an additional monthly allowance as urgent assistance to those who have been affected due to the loss of employment, decline in agriculture output and inability to cultivate due to many reasons. Accordingly, the President proposed to continue this program for a further 4 months to reduce the pressure of the economic crisis on the affected people. He also proposed to provide an additional monthly allowance of 2,500 rupees for pregnant mothers in addition to 20,000 rupees already provided for them. He said that 46,600 million rupees will be allocated for a period of 4 months for these programs, including food insecure families. The President further proposed to provide a subsidy for the owners of small boats which are used for the fishing industry and for those in the plantation areas that have no electricity services. 133 billion rupees have been allocated under the World Bank loan assistance for the implementation of programs with a view of reducing the impact of the current economic crisis and restoring social stability. In addition, $110 million have been allocated for the import of urea required for paddy cultivation in the Maha season, and fertilizer procurement is already underway. He said this in the belief this initiative will enable the paddy farmers to get a good harvest in the coming season and thus will be able to get rice at a reasonable price for the rice consumers. Also, the President said that the government is working to meet the domestic gas requirement without a shortage in the future as well. The government is intended to spend about 25 billion rupees from this loan assistance for the proposal. Aimed at strengthening for the farmers and freeing them from debt burden, actions are being taken to write off the outstanding loans obtained by paddy farmers with 2 hectares of land or less, which are currently in default to the state banks. President Wickremesinghe proposed to establish youth agriculture companies and to link them with 331 divisional federations of youth clubs to get a maximum result. 250 million rupees will be allocated for this proposal. The President also allocated 200 million rupees to enhance domestic dairy production and implement a national program with the support of all stakeholders. A proposal was made to allocate 400 million rupees to the Department of Agriculture to produce the necessary seeds and planting materials. With the aim of efficiently and productively using government land for agriculture and livestock under the strategy for encouraging export-oriented agriculture, the government lands will be used efficiently and unemployed youth will be directed for that purpose. He proposed to allocate 50 million rupees to implement this proposal. 50% import duty concession has been offered on the import of advanced new technology equipment or accessories for food packaging. The President said that the National Design Centre and Export Development Board should jointly introduce a new packaging program and contribute to the promotion of the export market through innovative packaging. He also said that the number of tourist arrivals per year should be increased to more than 2.5 million as the target of the government. Also, a 5-member committee representing various sectors is expected to be appointed to present a report focusing on the identification of new places of tourist attractions and the improvement of related facilities. A provision of 300 million rupees is expected to be allocated to implement these proposals. Many countries in the world have opened educational opportunities to foreign students in a manner to build their foreign reserves. Accordingly, Sri Lanka also needs to encourage private investment to provide educational opportunities to foreign students. Accordingly, he proposed to open a branch of campus of the Kotalawala Defence University in Kurunegala. The President said it is necessary to provide further training to be able to get a new job based on the skills acquired in the jobs engaged in free trade zones. Accordingly, it will be possible under this system to train and provide NVQ certificates from the selected vocational training institutes and the TVEC, which is the regulatory body in the vocational training sector. A provision of 200 million rupees will be allocated for this program. By providing part-time or short-term formal training in technology and innovation, the government expects to ensure the employment security of the community engaged in micro-scale self-employment and livelihood occupations. 200 million rupees are expected to be allocated to implement this proposal. As the initial phase, a train with relevant facilities will be deployed to transport vegetables, fruits and other products from the Haliala railway station to Colombo Fort railway station with the intention to increase the efficiency of supply chains. A provision worth of 200 million rupees has been allocated in this regard. The government will facilitate the expansion of renewable energy sources to enhance availability and to reduce the cost of energy generation in Sri Lanka by allocation of necessary land and through the necessary operational restructuring of the CEB. Manufacturing of electric bicycles should be encouraged as a local industry with a view of reducing fossil fuel consumption. Therefore, tax concessions will be provided for imported accessories and parts required in the manufacture of electric bicycles locally with more than 50% value addition. President Wickremesinghe said that the aim of the government is to create a surplus in the primary budget by the year 2025. He said that the effort is to stabilize the economic growth rate and to establish a solid economic foundation by the year 2026. Public debt is about 100% of the gross domestic product as of now. He said that the target of the government is to bring this down to less than 100% in the medium term.
And meanwhile, Japan is ready to coordinate with other creditors to resolve Sri Lanka's deepening financial crisis. Finance Minister of Japan Shinichi Suzuki has urged all creditor nations to gather and discuss the debt crisis of Sri Lanka at the same table. President Ranil Wickremesinghe, in a statement with Reuters agency, said that Sri Lanka would ask Japan to invite the main creditor nations to talk of restructuring bilateral debts. Japanese Financial Minister Suzuki said that Sri Lanka must accelerate talks with the International Monetary Fund on a bailout, while all bilateral creditors, including China and India, must gather to discuss the issue. U.S. Ambassador Julie Chung said that a discussion was held with the United States and Sri Lanka Business Council on ways United States and Sri Lanka business can collaborate to ensure Sri Lanka gets back on a path to prosperity. In a tweet, the U.S. Ambassador said that U.S.-Sri Lanka bilateral trade already supports more than 180,000 workers, supplying exports to the United States and contribute billions to the Sri Lankan economy. She further indicated that the United States will redouble efforts to support Sri Lanka along the path through ongoing efforts including financial for SMEs, fertilizer and seeds for farmers, education, exchange and training to strengthen public financial management, as well as support through IMF if agreement can be reached. And meanwhile, the supply of fuel for private buses as well as school transport services from Sri Lanka Transport Board depots is currently underway.
Accordingly, fuel will be issued based on the requirements as per the instructions directed by the Passenger Transport Authority. Steps have been taken to issue a maximum of 100 litres of fuel for private buses and 70 litres of fuel for school transport services through SLTB depots. Meanwhile, long queues were seen near filling stations in many parts of the country even today. Private bowser owners have claimed that the fuel quantity provided through the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has been halted. Therefore, they have said that the bowsers with fuel have faced great difficulties. Pulmuday Special Task Force officers have apprehended a suspect for hoarding and selling 400 litres of petrol for exorbitant rates. The fisheries communities in the northwestern coastal region have resumed their industry following the kerosene supply. However, the fishermen in the area have said that the prices of fish cannot be reduced due to the kerosene price hike.
The United States, through the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Save the Children, donate 320 metric tons of split yellow peas to nourish school children across Sri Lanka. U.S. Ambassador Julie Chung and Minister Susil Premajayantha were present at the ceremony. The shipment is a part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture program, a 5-year $26 million project aimed to providing immediate emergency assistance to the food insecure to improve literacy and attendance by reducing hunger. The U.S. Department of Agriculture and its partner Save the Children work with the government and local communities to ensure food reaches those most in need. The donation reflects the U.S. larger efforts to scale up food security operations worldwide to provide record amount of immediate emergency assistance in order to save lives and alleviate suffering. Food security programs are on one compartment of the long-standing partnership between the American and Sri Lankan people to support Sri Lanka's development journey and promote economic sustainability.
An international level workshop to operate three-wheelers powered by electricity instead of fuel was held at the BMICH today. Cabinet approval has been granted for the registration of electric three-wheelers. The workshop was held with the participation of Minister Bandula Gunawardena. So far, 1.1 million three-wheelers powered by fuel have been registered in the country. Accordingly, steps have been taken to initiate a special program to transform three-wheelers into electric vehicles as a solution for the prevailing fuel crisis. The United Nations Development Programme is sponsoring the project. The government has requested all relevant institutions in the country to submit their methodologies to convert three-wheelers into electric vehicles, and today's workshop was held with the participation of these institutions. The Department of Motor Traffic inspected the respective methodologies during the event. Approval was granted by the UNDP to operate 300 three-wheelers with electricity under the first stage. Accordingly, the Motor Traffic Department said that necessary measures are being formulated to legalize the relevant methodology in Sri Lanka, and any three-wheeler can be converted into an electric vehicle from a department-registered garage. The University Grants Commission informs that applications for the university admission for the academic year 2021-2022 can be submitted from next Monday.
The relevant period for the submission of applications will conclude on September 23rd. The applications can be submitted based on the advanced level examination results issued on last Sunday. A total of 42,519 students are eligible for the university admissions. These details were shared during a media briefing held at the Government Information Department today with the participation of Chairman of the University Grants Commission, Professor Sampath Amarathunga. University entrance handbook will be issued to the market on next Friday at a price of 1,000 rupees. The handbook also can be downloaded from www.ugc.az.lk. Applications can only be submitted through an online platform, and the UGC has emphasized the national identity card is essential for the application submission process. For more than information regarding the relevant process, students can reach 20112-695-301 and 1919 hotline. The Information Center for the UGC will open from next Monday to September 23rd during the office hours. Several new courses have been introduced for the new academic year. Sri Javardhanapura University has introduced new courses of financial economics, creative music technology and production subjects. The ULS University has introduced English language and applied linguistics, and Vavuniya University has introduced banking and insurance courses. A new facility has been initiated for the computer technology at the University of Sri Javardhanapura. The UGC has indicated that a total of 2,035 medical students and 2,238 engineering students are expected to be enrolled. And meanwhile, a protest organized by the Inter-University Students' Federation was held in Colombo today.
The police dispersed the crowds using tear gas. The protest was organized demanding the release of a group of arrestees, including convener of the Federation, Vasantha Mudalige. The protest was commenced from Elphinstone Theatre in Maradada. The police dispersed the crowds using tear gas. The protesters subsequently resumed the protest in front of the Health Ministry. The police dispersed the protesters from the ministry premises as well.
Today marks the International Day of the Disappeared. A special discussion over the measures undertaken to detect the missing persons in Sri Lanka and other related matters was telecast on Channel I today. Minister Vijayadas Rajapaksha made these remarks during the discussion. The International Day of the Disappeared is commemorated on the August 30th of each year. The day was created to draw attention to the fate of individuals imprisoned at places and under poor conditions unknown to their relatives and or legal representatives. The International Day of the Disappeared is an opportunity to highlight these institutions' work, increase public awareness and to call for donations and volunteers. The Office on Missing Persons in a Sri Lankan Government Department tasked with bringing closer to sufficient victims and their relatives being detrimental to the status of all missing persons in Sri Lanka.
Altogether, there were 14,988 cases reported to the office. When we assumed the duties, I just checked the numbers that they had completed 65 files. I was quite disappointed because if at that rate, if you'll have to work, you'll have to take a century. That is for the 5 years period. But I advise the present chairman, Mr. Katulan, the attorney law, as well as your chairman, being a member, very active member, Mr. Ganegala, and Mr. Tapparan and the crowd, I advise them to accelerate the whole process. That is our, not because of the legal obligation, that is our, that's a moral obligation is there. In the absence of this one, the people have to face a lot of hardships that people, that ordinary people may not understand the gravity of this one. Now, when a person is missing, we'll say that's a father or a brother is missing. Then there is no death certificate and he might be having a business or the property. Then the heirs of the deceased or the person missing, that they cannot, that exercise their legal rights. Though in the absence of a death certificate, they are not considered as the heirs of the person missing. And therefore a lot of complications. That is why we have made provisions for them to issue a certificate of absence that is almost equal to a death certificate. Then at least the other people that who have inherited their properties can enjoy their legal rights. Now, of course, after I advised them that they are fully dedicated and mostly very difficult to catch them in Colombo now. Mostly they are in the affected areas, northern province and eastern province. I was happy to know that they have completed now 1,250 files, including the 65 that was completed for the previous 5 years term.
And how long does this process take, Honorable Minister?
It's a very tedious task, by when you look at, from the surface, it looks very simple thing that is just to get, the details and ascertain that person is missing. But they'll have to go through a very lengthy process because that has to be an accurate information. If they give a wrong certificate, the whole system get distorted.
Exactly.
Therefore, that they will have to get the support of many government officials. There are a lot of obstacles. The main obstacle is the extremist politicians in the Sinhala community and the Tamil community. However much we do the good thing, whether it is this government or that government, it makes no matter, that they want to take political advantage by arousing this communal feeling. Both these fundamentalists, that extremist group think that for their survival this is needed. The secondly, the media. Most of the media have no sense of responsibility in reporting this kind of sensational issues. Instead of reporting it a manner where it is tempted for people to think in the unity, that they reported in such a way just to create the hatred or jealousy in the minds of the people. That is one of the biggest problem. There are a lot of pressures from international community. That the reason behind that is that the Tamil diaspora is very large and they are very powerful. And if you take it that they are large and they are powerful, it is as an adverse fact to the country, again that we are going back to zero. That is good. When they are powerful, when they are very strong, when they have the capacity to influence the international community, that is also good. The only problem is whether we are getting their, that power, that strength for the benefit of our own people. Now that is why I invited openly to the diaspora, please come to the table. We need not go to Geneva, we will go to Jaffna or Batticlo or wherever. There are enough places where we can meet. We will discuss whatever the problem genuinely that we can resolve. Instead of going to Jaffna and say sorry or apologize to the Tamil people for what happened. As a citizen, I can go to Jaffna and I can do it. I think that is the duty of all the media institutions and all the journalists to promote that culture. Otherwise, that they are doing somewhat, adverse to the country. The larger picture of it is not only that we are doing some justice for the party or the victim, but that will give some assurance that in the future this kind of things will not repeat. That is the most important thing.
There are many ways actually we have gathered or collated information or the data from previous commissions or previous departments or previous president's commissions established in the past 25 years or 30 years in Sri Lanka. There are several commissions established, so we have to abstract the information from that commissions. So there are 7 commissions, and you can see actually that is a major issue for us actually, because there are a lot of repetition or multiple entries. So looks like actually there are high number of cases in Sri Lanka, but looks like in detail 7 cases, if you compile together, it's like one case reported in 7 times. So that's
and 7 different places.
7 different places.
Right.
So the reason why we started conducting these inquiries to clean the files or to ensure that it's not multiply or counted multiple times. So that part is at least ensured for the last 20 years complaints. we have completed. So now we have published the provisional list as well. So the public, they can view the details of the missing persons and they can edit or they can ensure that the person, their loved ones or their husband or son or daughter, that person's name is there in the list. So that part is now we have already done.
The Colombo High Court served indictments on 3 suspects, including MP Johnston Fernando, today. The relevant case was held by the Bribery Commission. The indictments have been served on MP Johnston Fernando and 2 others for allegedly violating the Bribery Act by employing a group of employees attached to Lanka Sadasa for election work in 2012. The indictments were served before the Colombo High Court Judge Aditya Patamadige. The suspects were released on personal bails and sureties. The next hearing of the case has been scheduled to the 21st of October. Another petition has been filed before the Court of Appeal requesting to penalise MP Sanat Nishanta on the charges of contempt of court. That's a wrap of local news. Stay tuned for foreign news after this short break.
Fantamai. Prima Katami, Fantamai.
Come back with international news, and Shia leader Muqtada al-Sadra's sudden resignation has plunged the Middle Eastern country into a violence and chaos with no clear path.
Fighting between rival Iraqi forces has raged for a second day, with rocket fire echoing from Baghdad's Green Zone, where several supporters of Shia leader Muqtada al-Sadr have been shot dead, medics said. Today morning, medics updated the toll of Sadr supporters killed to 23. With some 380 others injured, some with bullet wounds and others suffering tear gas inhalation. Tensions have soared in the Iraq community amid a political crisis that has left the country without a new government, prime minister or president for months, and escalated sharply after his supporters yesterday afternoon stormed the government palace following their leader's announcement that he was quitting politics. The violence pitches backers of Sadr against rival Shia factions backed by neighbouring Iran. Meanwhile, the United Nations mission in Iraq warned of an extremely dangerous escalation and called on all sides to refrain from acts that could lead to an unstoppable chain of events.
Sports update, and the Sri Lankan players taking part in the Asian Netball Championship left the country today, and the tournament will be taking place in Bangladesh.
The Sri Lankan contingent is taking part in this year's tournament as reigning champions. The Sri Lankan netball team will be captained by Gayanjali Amaravansha. Vice captain of the team is Dulangi Vannitilaka. Dharmapala College Pannipitiya won the annual cricket encounter against Rahula College Mathura. The match was played at Dharmapala College grounds. Batting first, Dharmapala College scored 221 runs for the loss of 3 wickets. Chasing the target, Rahula College Mathura was limited to a score of 149 runs. Accordingly, Dharmapala College won the match by 72 runs.
And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Do just tomorrow at the very same time. I'm Charita signing off with Niket. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.